I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe is off this morning. Happy Valentine's Day. We're happy you're starting it with us. We're going to begin this Friday morning with a lot of uncertainty for hundreds of thousands of federal workers across the country. Late Thursday, the Trump administration began a mass firing of federal workers. Now, according to a person familiar with the matter, officials from the Office of Personnel Management have met with agency leaders and advised them to dismiss probationary employees. Those are employees who have typically been on the job less than 1 or 2 years, and they don't have all their civil service protections. This comes as President Trump announced a plan to impose reciprocal tariffs on trade partners, including allies. The president explained his reasoning to reporters.
Again, whatever they charge us, we're charging them, so it works out very well. It's a beautiful, simple system. So we're going to see, but it's going to mean tremendous amounts of jobs. And ultimately, prices will stay the same, go down. But we're going to have a very dynamic country.
Meanwhile, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was sworn in yesterday as the nation's new Health and Human Services Secretary. The Senate confirmed his nomination in a largely party-line vote, but Republican Senator Mitch McConnell, who had childhood polio and has praised the success of vaccines, joined Democrats in voting against Kennedy. We have team coverage ahead this morning, including more on the impact of tariffs, as well as the latest on negotiations that could potentially end the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. We're going to get started with NBC News White House correspondent Aaron Gilchrist with the latest developments on all this. Aaron, good morning. So let's start with this mass firing of federal workers. So people might remember this buyout that the Trump administration had offered via this Department of Government Efficiency led by Elon Musk. And a judge actually ended a pause that they had put on this deferred resignation offer. And then there was fear, though, that those who didn't take that buyout risked fear of being laid off. Is that ultimately what's now happening here?
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to look at it. I mean, you remember from day one, the president put in place a hiring freeze for the federal government. And then sources told us that the goal of this buyout program was really to cut 5 to 10% of the federal workforce. So we're talking about 100,000 to 200,000 workers. At the end of this buyout, this deferred resignation program, we were told by White House officials that about 75,000 federal employees had taken the buyout. So that falls short of the 1 to 200,000 that the administration set to remove from the federal workforce at the beginning of this. And so now we're seeing the next step in the effort to shrink the size of the federal workforce, this mass firing, so it seems, of probationary workers, as you noted, people who've been in federal service, civilian service for a year or two in some cases. This is something that the unions that represent federal workers have pointed out. It's not based on merit. These are people who are simply being fired in an effort to get the numbers to where the administration wants them to be. And so, Savannah, we'll see ultimately what the final numbers turn out to be. You look at the Department of Veterans Affairs. They told us pretty quickly last night, that they had fired more than 1,000 probationary employees, and that they were looking at that in the larger context of 43,000 employees who fit that description, who are not being fired. So we'll wait to see what the final numbers shake out to be once this is all said and done.
Aaron, let's also talk tariffs. They continue to be this top priority for the Trump administration. And we just saw him sign an executive order yesterday looking at reciprocal tariffs. Then he also later met with the Prime Minister of India, who then also met with Elon Musk. What were the big takeaways on this?
So let's start with those reciprocal tariffs. As we understand that the president is directing his team to make a country-by-country assessment of what the trade situation, the tariff situation is with any individual country and the United States, and to figure out if there needs to be a correction or something to put those two countries on a level playing field, as the administration has referred to it. He's also told his team to look at the potential fiscal impacts of reciprocal tariffs with every individual country. It's a huge undertaking to be able to look at all the interconnected trade policies that different countries and the European Union, for example, would have to sort of consider in this process. So that 180-day assessment is something that we're going to be watching for the next several months, obviously. I want you to hear in particular what the president had to say about these tariffs as he was standing next to the Indian Prime Minister at the White House yesterday. Listen.
As a signal of good faith, Prime Minister Modi recently announced the reductions to India's unfair, very strong tariffs that limit U.S. access into the Indian market very strongly. And we are right now a reciprocal nation. We are going to, if it's India or if it's somebody else with low tariffs, we're going to have the same. We're going to have whatever India charges, we're charging them.
And so, again, we'll be watching to see what changes are made as it relates to countries like India, where the president also yesterday made reference to the fact that they're going to be increasing military sales to India and looking at some other expanding trade routes between India, Europe, and the Middle East, and the United States. And so there's a lot of moving parts to this, Savannah. It seems every day we're getting sort of new things to try to consider and wrap our brains around. We know, as you asked about the Elon Musk meeting with the prime minister, he said that he met with Musk and his family. He said he's known Musk for years and years. They talked about space. They talked about technology. They talked about innovation in that sit down they had near the White House yesterday, Savannah.
Truly breakneck speed on all this news, Aaron, especially coming out of Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. We appreciate you covering it all. Thanks, Aaron. Well, let's continue the conversation and bring in friend of the show and Investopedia editor-in-chief Caleb Silver. Caleb, great to have you with us. Of course, so we want to talk with you on these tariffs, what it's going to mean for all of us. Let's get more into his quote here, fair and reciprocal trade tariffs. This is on all major U.S. trading partners, including longtime allies. Walk us through exactly how this would work, especially because I think if you just listened to what we played there a moment ago from the president when he was speaking about India specifically, it's kind of like, okay, they're going to lower, we're going to lower. Is that bad news? What does that mean for us as consumers?
Yeah, it really depends on which country we're talking about, and Aaron characterized it well. It's very complicated because we do a lot of imports, both with partners and with countries that aren't necessarily our partners or allies. But take Europe, for example, about $600 billion worth of imports coming into the U.S. A lot of that pharmaceuticals, a lot of that surgical equipment, cars, obviously, Parmesan cheese. So if there are tariffs coming into the country, if we're paying a higher tariff or if they're charging us a higher tariff when we send over Budweiser and Harley Davidsons, we're just going to raise the tariff and make it reciprocal, make it equal. The president thinks that that's the fair thing to do, but every product is different and every country is different. So it's going to take at least 180 days, and that's what the Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, charges. Examine each product, each country for the next 180 days and decide whether or not we need to add reciprocal tariffs. The president also pointing out value-added tariffs that a lot of these countries impose on U.S. goods. I mentioned Harley Davidson's whiskey as well. They add a VAT in Europe. He's saying that's not fair, and if that's the case, we're going to add one here. And he's also talking about additional taxes on top of tariffs for things like semiconductors. So lots of tariff talk. The thing is, we don't know exactly when they're going to begin, which products they're going to affect, and whether or not this is more bark than bite.
And Caleb, so tell us, short-term, long-term, what's it going to feel like for us and our wallets?
We're going to be uncertain, and I think that a lot of importers are going to raise prices preemptively because they think that those tariffs are coming and there may be a scarcity issue. But right now, again, because we don't know the timetable and which products, it's hard to say how that's going to affect us. But if you went out and put full-blown tariffs on everywhere he has threatened, that could cost hundreds of thousands of jobs, according to estimates from the Brookings Institute. It could also slow the economy and cost consumers more money because we're going to be paying up for those tariffs. Those prices just get passed on to us. But again, it's been more bark than bite right now. It depends on which countries, which tariffs, and which products.
All right, Caleb Silver, we appreciate it. Thank you. Well, Russia's war with Ukraine is raging on as the U.S. pushes for peace talks. This morning, Ukrainian President Zelensky said a Russian drone hit the protective containment shell at the infamous Chernobyl nuclear power plant. That video you were just watching, he posted of that alleged attack to Telegram. Now, according to the International Atomic Energy Agency, the strike did not raise radiation levels. Now, Zelensky is set to meet with Vice President J.D. Vance today at a security conference in Munich. It comes as President Trump clarified comments he made after a call with Russian President Putin, in which they discussed starting negotiations to end the war immediately. Well, Trump now says Ukraine will have a seat at the table during those talks, but he struck a more cautious tone when speaking about the timeline and the key disagreement over territory and borders.
Russia has gotten themselves into something that I think they wish they didn't. But as far as the negotiation, it's too early to say what's going to happen. Maybe Russia will give up a lot, maybe they won't, and it's all dependent on what is going to happen. The negotiation really hasn't started.
NBC News correspondent Danielle Hamamdin joins us from London with more on this. Danielle, good morning. So let's start on a concerning headline here. What do we know about this drone strike at Chernobyl? What's Russia saying?
Yeah, good morning, Savannah. Well, the Ukrainians say this drone attack caused significant damage, but as you say, There appears to be no increase so far in radiation levels, but they are closely monitoring it, as you can imagine. Chernobyl, of course, was the site of the worst ever civil nuclear explosion back in 1986 when nuclear reactor number 4 exploded. This reactor has since been protected by the shelter, which is what the Ukrainians say was struck overnight. An advisor to the Ukrainian leader, Volodymyr Zelensky, said that this is proof Vladimir Putin is not interested in negotiations, but rather interested in continuing to deceive the world. The Russians have now reacted. Putin's press secretary, Dmitry Peskov, rejecting the accusation, saying instead that this was staged by Ukraine to coincide with this conference in Munich. Savannah.
And Danielle, today's meeting between Vice President Vance and President Zelensky that I mentioned, it wasn't on anyone's calendar at the beginning of the week. What does that tell us in terms of the developments we've seen and heard from the president, from President Trump, and what can we expect from this meeting?
I think we can expect the vice president to present the U.S. vision for how this war is going to end. Remember that the U.S. believes that Ukraine must give up territory, a position that's frustrating allies who've said concessions are already being made to Russia and the talks haven't even begun. The former president of Estonia, of course, a NATO member, has said that Trump has effectively already given Ukraine to Russia. Here's what the U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said just yesterday about this.
Simply pointing out realism, like the borders won't be rolled back to what everybody would like them to be in 2014, is not a concession to Vladimir Putin. It's a recognition of the hard power realities on the ground after a lot of investment and sacrifice, first by the Ukrainians and then by allies, and then a realization that a negotiated peace is going to be some sort of demarcation that neither side wants.
Now, worth noting that the vice president, J.D. Vance, has also, in an interview with the Wall Street Journal, warned that Russia has to agree to a deal that will ensure Ukraine's long-term independence. And if it doesn't do so, the U.S. will hit Moscow with sanctions, possibly even military action.
Danielle, it's interesting because between this week's prisoner exchange with Russia and then also this push for peace talks, it seems like we're seeing this thaw in U.S. relations with Russia, which is maybe not a surprise given President Trump's past with Putin. But there's now several ideas being floated to collaborate with Putin generally. What is he proposing and how do you see this going?
Well, there was a time, if you remember, when it wasn't the G7, it was the G8, and Russia was kicked out of the family, so to speak, because of the 2014 annexation of Crimea. Today, the U.S. position is realistically Ukraine cannot get Crimea back, and so it wants Russia to come back to the table and turn it back into the G8. Trump also wants to engage in nuclear talks with Russia and China. The goal, he says, for all three countries to cut their defense budget by half. Trump saying there is no reason to be building more nuclear weapons. Savannah, back to you.
Danielle, thank you very much. Well, here in New York City, the fallout over the Justice Department's decision to drop corruption charges against Mayor Eric Adams is growing. Yesterday, the top federal prosecutor in New York took the dramatic step of resigning after she was ordered to dismiss the case against the embattled mayor. Jonathan Dienst from our New York affiliate WNBC has the story.
Acting U.S. Attorney Danielle Sassoon's resignation comes as prosecutors in the Southern District felt they had a strong case. That, according to several officials familiar with the matter. And prosecutors had said additional criminal charges could soon come. And in a letter, Sassoon alleges Adams' lawyers came close to crossing a line during a meeting with the Deputy Attorney General. Adams' attorneys repeatedly urged what amounted to a quid pro quo, indicating that Adams would be in a position to assist the department's enforcement priorities only if the indictment were dismissed. Assistant Attorney General Beauvais admonished a member of my team who took notes during the meeting and directed the collection of those notes at the meeting's conclusion. Adams' lawyer, Alex Spiro, fired back, saying there was no improper deal with Maine Justice. The idea that there was a quid pro quo is a total lie. We offered nothing, and the department asked nothing of us. I don't know what amounted to means. Trump's new Attorney General, Pam Bondi, and her acting deputy, Emile Beauvais, sent a February 10th order directing the Southern District to dismiss the charges against Mayor Adams, and said the charges would be dropped so the mayor could focus on immigration and crime issues And DOJ also questioned the timing of the charges coming months before the election. The order from Washington to drop the case is raising questions about prosecutorial independence under the Trump administration. After the Southern District declined to drop the case, two sources tell NBC the criminal case was reassigned to the Public Integrity Section at Maine Justice. But the head of that division also refused to drop the charges against the mayor, and he too resigned. Mayor Adams' lawyer this week said the charges should be dropped, arguing the case that the mayor engaged in campaign finance fraud and accepted free trips from Turkey was weak.
There is no looming threat. This case is over. This case will never be brought back.
And Mayor Adams repeated the Trump administration's claims that the Justice Department had become weaponized.
As they say, I'm Eric Adams, and I approve of that message.
Sassoon was put in as acting U.S. attorney by the Trump administration. She is considered by many to be highly talented and a sharp lawyer, who is also a member of the Conservative Federalist Society. In a letter, Emile Beauvais accused the U.S. attorney of continuing a politically motivated prosecution of Mayor Adams, and he ordered the line prosecutors handling the Adams case to be placed on leave because they were supportive of continuing the case. And then he ordered an internal investigation of each prosecutor. He said none of them had the authority to contest the weaponization concerns of the Trump administration about the Justice Department generally and the Adams case.
Our thanks to Jonathan Dienst for that report. In addition to Sassoon, 4 high-ranking Justice Department officials also resigned Thursday afternoon. Well, let's head out west now, where a torrential rainstorm has led to flash flood watches and evacuation orders in Southern California Thursday. Watch this dramatic video. This is captured by an NBC News crew. This large debris flow swept this car off the road and into the ocean, get this, with someone still stuck inside. The driver, who happened to be a member of the fire department, was luckily able to walk away with only minor injuries. In Los Angeles, mudslides closed Mulholland Drive, one of the city's most famous streets, while thousands of people were warned to evacuate in the areas already reeling from the deadly wildfires last month. Evacuation orders for areas near the burn scars left by the Pacific Palisades and Eaton fires are still in place until later this afternoon. NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson joins us from Malibu with more on this. Steve, good morning. Of course, Malibu, an area that was so impacted by those fires, and there were flood watches ultimately for at least 32 million people at the height of this storm yesterday. What do things look like today between the fires that this community has had to go through, the burn scars that we're discussing, and then this rain on top of it?
Yeah, you know, it's kind of a good news, bad news situation, right, Savannah? I think the good news is that the biggest bullet that could have been predicted to strike this region, we avoided that. The swift water rescues, worries about extensive injuries, extensive structural damage, rivers of mud sort of flooding this area, that really didn't happen. And the flood watches that you mentioned have mostly expired because the rain has essentially stopped it. The storm system is sort of moving out of the region, which is, of course, great news. The bad news is, what a mess the storm left behind. Rock slides, mudslides, debris flows, you name it, it happened, especially in these burn scar areas that officials were so focused on and so worried about. Multiple rock slides and mudslides in areas like this. In Mulholland Drive, as you mentioned, the mudslide that struck there was about 8 inches thick. We saw similar mudslides along the Pacific Coast Highway in multiple places, shutting down that road. And we're not out of the woods yet. Those evacuation orders, as you mentioned, still in place for at least the next few hours or so. Savannah?
Steve, just how vulnerable are some of these places? Like you mentioned, the bullet that was dodged, which is, like you said, really good news. But as any other storms come, just how vulnerable are these areas given what's left after these fires?
So very vulnerable. You know, when you have a fire that destroys so much, especially the vegetation and sort of the hillsides in the area, it strips away sort of that top layer of topsoil, creating essentially what is amounts to like runways for debris to flow down. So if you have a pocket of rain to settle on a burn scar like the one I'm really standing on right now, it creates a real mess and concern because all of the debris essentially on that hillside can come tumbling down. And there are still houses that are intact, even in a burn zone like this, where we saw so much destruction still. Some of the units are in place. Obviously, homeowners would like to keep their homes, and officials are very worried and very focused about those areas. And just because the rain has stopped doesn't mean the danger is over.
That's
Savannah.
right. The National Weather Service actually saying last night mud and rock slides can still happen well after the rain has ended. An important reminder for community members. Steve, thank you very much. Well, for more on the details on this flood risk out west and also another round of winter weather this weekend that's hitting part of the country, let's get a look at your morning news now. Weather with Angie Lastman. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Hi there, Savannah. Good morning. Happy Friday. Happy Valentine's Day. Things, as Steve said, are winding down in California when it comes to the rain. We've still got some of these lingering flood alerts, mainly flood watches stretching from Redding down to Lake Isabella, including Sacramento. Those are going to continue to kind of expire as the day goes on, and we'll see some of those improvements. Still some lingering showers across parts of northern and central California, and we've got still some snow falling across parts of the Sierra range. That is going to be something we deal with through the day today. Meanwhile, out east, of course, we've got the big parade going on in Philadelphia. Mostly sunny. It'll be cold. It'll be windy. Honestly, just feeling a lot like winter. But today, the forecast is going to be a lot better for folks that are out there celebrating than it will be as we get into the weekend, because we've got this next system that's going to ramp up, emerge basically, and kind of intensify across parts of the plains. And we've already got winter alerts up for parts of the Great Lakes and parts of the Northeast and New England. 35 million people are under those alerts at this time. That number is going to expand here as the day goes on. So the heavy snow, the ice, all on the table here for the northern part of this system. This is going to leave us with some heavy rain and the potential for severe storms, and that means flooding as well as tornadoes and such across parts of the south. So this is a multi-threat kind of event, and it's a multi-day event. This isn't just Saturday. This is Sunday, too. You just saw us play through Sunday during the day, and it'll finally, that system, most of it will be offshore by the time we get into the evening hours. But notice the heavy snow that's still lingering around with that wintry mix as well. Snowfall totals going to be most impressive for interior areas of New England. This is going to be difficult for travel on the roadways, not just because of the snow that could be, 4 to 6 inches, but up to a foot, but also the fact that we have 1/4 of an inch of ice accumulation possible. And not to mention, Savannah, the flash flooding is going to be a big problem tomorrow across the Tennessee and Ohio valleys. We'll have multiple inches of rain. And on top of that, I really want to hit this point. We do have the potential for severe storms to develop, and tornadoes will be possible. Some of those EF2 are higher, along with wind gusts and hail. So this is going to be a busy kind of weekend for folks. Not great for outdoor plans, but want to have a way to get connected and make sure that you have those alerts available.
Gosh, and just all over the country, important safety reminders. I like your hearts.
Oh, I like yours.
Thanks. Happy Valentine's Day. See you in a little bit. Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.